Previously on the Rod Pedersen Show.
They score more goals when Jack Campbell's in goal because they have to. Darren, you've played enough sports, and I think you said you've coached it, as have I, and been around it. Teams play differently depending on who is in at key positions. That's a fact. Hey, guys, we got a crappy rookie kicker in this game. We're going to have to get it a little closer to get him into range, if you want to use a football term. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would think, Jeff, you understand that. The orders, and any team plays differently depending on who's in goal. That's my read on that. But last night I was at FLA Live Arena at the Panthers game, and I'm seeing everybody, including TSN announcers, scoffing at Jack Campbell. I guess I didn't even see the highlight. He must have let in a softie early on for the orders, but they went on to win. So, do you have any thoughts on that before I move on to your Leafs?
No, you're right. You nailed it. You play differently in front of different players, and right now they feel like they want to support Jack Campbell or need to support him a little bit more and score a few more goals. So, yeah, that happens.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, people think that I'm outspoken and I have these bold opinions. You people don't understand. I've got about 200 times more opinions. I bite my tongue. I was done on Jack Campbell 2 years ago when he was with the Leafs and he let in a floater between his legs in Game 7. And you remember the game against Montreal.
Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show.
Listen, I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm getting sick of the Dallas Cowboys, thanks to them. I don't see Falcons fans tweeting, why don't you talk about our team? I don't see San Jose Sharks fans writing ESPN, how come you don't talk about our team? Okay, I can't. I just need to and block out the noise. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
It is. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on your favorite daytime sports and entertainment talk show. Heavy on the sports today. Heavy on the talk. Not on Game Plus television. Live streaming on YouTube and on the radio. Shout out. We already got it in there from Ryan O'Neill. Ryan O'Radio down there in Noonan. WQEE. Let's go. Let's have fun. Let's bring in Darren Moose Dupont. From the NHL's Bermuda Triangle, we've got a lot to get to in the Quick Six show topics. They include NHL leftovers from Wednesday. I feel that people are getting a little punchy today. Me too. Last day of my 40. I do want to talk about goalies. I could talk about them every day. We've got your NFL top 5 coming up as Week 15 kicks off tonight, Thursday Night Football. I got some CFL stuff for you. I learned something about the Atlanta Hawks last night that makes me feel a lot better about them. And the Raptors were on the court last night in a lot of randoms. Coming up today, Matt Sekeres from Sekeres and Price in Vancouver. We're going to get the dirty details on the Canucks. Sam Cosentino for a World Junior Hockey program in Canada's NFL expert Jim Lang will be with us there coming up in hour 2. Can you hit the Quick Six show horn, please, Director Jordan, please? And thank you.
How about that?
And I wanted to bring you in before I get to number 1. There were only 3 games in the NHL last night. A lot easier for a squirrel like me to get my mind around. But I'm very excited that we are now a nationally ranked hockey podcast in Canada. That's not easy to do. You would think that, there's a million podcasts in Canada. Well, there are a million podcasts in Canada. It's like being named the top 100 comedians of all time. Do you remember when they put that out? It came out during the remember when we were talking about that? And I'm like, oh, big deal being in the top 100. You start adding up all the comedians of all time, being in the top 100 is a big deal. And being nationally ranked for us as a hockey podcast in Canada is a big deal. Now, I say this as respectfully as I can, you're quite excited that we're number 1 in another country. You want to tell the viewers about that and listeners?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. We are the number 1 hockey podcast in El Salvador. of all places. So ring the bell on that. I know you're looking for it.
Let's go, LFG.
I actually think we're the
Number
only one. We might be
El
the only
Salvador.
hockey podcast in El Salvador. Somebody there is listening to our show, so that's cool.
Moose has brought that up now 4 times. 3 on your own, and I just brought this up. I know you're excited about that. And hey, guys, don't dislocate your shoulder by patting yourself on the back for being the #1 hockey podcast in El Salvador. I'm not impressed by it. I will be when we're the #1 hockey podcast in the world. It's a little like handing out a trophy for being the tallest midget in the circus. To me, not that big a deal. But it is. #1 is nice somewhere. Okay, Jordan, can you hit the horn again? And then now we'll get serious, please. And thank you. And I'm staying out of the comments. So if you're trying to write at me, don't, because I'm not reading them right now. It's me and Moose's time right now. In St. Paul, Minnesota, Wednesday, Frederick Gaudreau scored twice, including a long-distance empty netter, and Matt Dumba notched his 3rd goal of the year as the Minnesota Wild beat the Detroit Red Wings 4-1 on Wednesday night. Yes, Minnesota, not looking back. I said 2 weeks ago that was the turning point in their season, and now they're beating everybody. In Ottawa, Shane Pinto, Drake Batherson, and Brady Tkachuk scored in Ottawa's 3-goal second period, and the Senators held on for their 3rd straight win, 3-2 over Montreal. Alex DeBrincat had 3 assists as Ottawa won for the 7th time in 10 games. So they're trending up. Cam Talbot got the winning goal for the Habs. Kirby Dach and Christian Dvorak scored in the 3rd period. They've lost 5 of their last 8. Sam Montembeault was in goal for the Habs. And the only other game was in Calgary, where we're going to spend a little more time on. Andrei Kuzmenko scored the only goal of the shootout, and Vancouver got its 6th straight road win, beating Calgary 4-3. You heard it right. Vancouver's won 6 in a row on the road, and that's supposed to be the hardest place to play. Bo Horvat scored in regulation for the Canucks, one of their 3 goal scorers. Nils Hoglander had 2 assists. Spencer Martin stopped 35 shots to improve to 9-3-1. On the flip side, the Flames have lost 4 in a row. Michael Backlund, Andrew Mangiapane, and Trevor Lewis scored for the Flames. They're now 6-1-1 in their last 8 at home. Dylan Dubé had 2 assists, and Jacob Markstrom finished with 24 saves. There's more, but I don't know where to go on this one. The Canucks fans are alive, and they're writing in, specifically Kevin the Medium, his son Jake. Can I just say this, Darren? I've been thinking, because you wouldn't have a problem, you've said it, if we got into the rumor mill and so forth. And I know that's the currency of guys like Darren Dreger and Bobby Margarita and Elliot Friedman. I get there's a market for that. But just yesterday, the young Canucks fan, Jake, was saying, who gets traded first, Horvat or Besser? Well, wait a minute. Why are you trading them at all? They've won 6 in a row on the road. They have an identity crisis there in Vancouver. What do you think?
Absolutely. They have an identity crisis. They don't know which way to go. Are you selling assets and trying to rebuild and retool this group to get better? Or are you a good team and trying to add some pieces? They don't know where they are. So I think it's far too early to make those decisions. And one day the Canucks fans are talking about trading because Bo Horvat's not talking about his contract and hasn't re-signed, and you don't want him to walk away to free agency for nothing. But on the other hand, you've won 6 in a row on the road, and your team's looking like a pretty good hockey team. So, I would just chill until we get into January. And if you're still in the conversation, then we can start having those conversations.
I'm open to it when it's time. Fair? Because again, I'm, believe it or not, a people pleaser by nature, but you can't please everybody. I've said it many times, as Ricky Nelson sings, you got to please yourself. And for those that, I think I say it daily, but for those that say, oh, the CFL talk's boring, oh, the junior hockey talk, you lose me, well, then don't watch, because that's me. That's what's made me, and it's the Rod Pedersen Show. So there's that. Again, I'm staying out of the comments. They don't listen too well. They don't listen to. I'm staying out of the comments because this is me and Moose's time. Before we go any further, the poll question for Capital Auto Mall Universal Collision Center is this. Capital Auto Mall has dealerships all across the Canadian prairies and, of course, the state of California. It's day 13 of our Jersey bracket. And today, These are Darren coming up with these. Toronto and Ottawa are the reverse retros, and those are the jerseys right there. And I would ask you, Darren, and the viewers, who's the first person you think of when you look at either? For me, it's a slam dunk. It's not even close. It is the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the first person I think of is Sil Apps.
Hell yes.
Just so you know, I went back and looked, and he played 11 seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 1930s and 40s. Don't at me with how I know that. The first name that popped into my head was Sil Apps. We all know I'm old. There's further proof. And as far as Ottawa goes, didn't they just wear that last night? Is that not what they wear every night? There's nothing special about that Ottawa jersey in my mind. And Daniel Alfredson's the guy that I think of when I saw it. Of course, the greatest senator of all time. Who are you voting for, and who do you think of when you see those jerseys?
I'm pretty similar. I'll vote for Toronto. I think the flip of those, we're kind of going back to the late 90s, early 2000s when they would play in those playoff series. So I think of Matt Sundin and Daniel Alfredson on either side when I think of those jerseys playing against each other in those playoffs.
Not Sil Apps? Not Johnny Bauer?
I don't go back that far. Johnny Bauer I would maybe think of because I've read a few books, more books with him than Sil Apps.
The pride of Prince Albert, which, by the way, there is a bronze statue of him in the rink in Prince Albert, the AHC. Hey, here's something you need to know, everybody. I cannot thank you enough. We are now, what did Morgan say today, 4 p.m. Friday, Central Time. They'll be making the draw for the 50-50, so we're just over 24 hours away. And in true Saskatchewan form, we're right at the line. We're right at that line. Not quite there yet, but with a big push. And this is not a sales job, Darren. As you know, it's the truth. I can't say how close they are, but they are very close. So if you have not bought your ticket, please do it now. Telemiracle5050.com. It's a 50-50, and you could be taking home, well, I can guarantee you over $50,000. But it's always a huge push. Please be part of it if you haven't already. Telemiracle5050.com. Do it right now, and you have to be 19 years of age or over and physically in the province of Saskatchewan to do it, and the proceeds going to the Kinsman Foundation of Saskatchewan that makes people's lives better every single day in the wonderful province of Saskatchewan. Thank you. 24 hours left to do it. Moving on, I don't know why this came into my head today. I feel like it's a bit of a God shot, but I literally have no idea why I was thinking about it. But it was, who will Canada's goalies be at the World Cup? This is the type of question that you would see on ESPN, but related to football and the NFL, which incidentally, this is the second straight day that they've gone on about Micah Parsons trash-talking Jalen Hurts on a podcast. I'm like, you guys, I just can't say enough. Man, I had to finally turn the channel. But for me, this would be a topic that Canadians and hockey fans, I think, could sink their teeth in. Gosh knows I could. And I've said this all along. For those that watch this show and have for a long time, I'm not moving off who I think it should be. It's who I think are the two best Canadian goalies, period. It's not a long list. Carter Hart in Philadelphia, he's not bad. It's just his team's terrible. And then Carey Price in Montreal, who is the best Canadian goalie right now. He's carried the mail for the last decade in all international competitions for our country. Yes, he's physically and mentally rehabbing right now, but he's coming back. I've been in discussions with his recovery team. He's coming back. They are figuring that it'll be the greatest comeback in the history of sports. Forget the NHL. So for me, it's Carter Hart and Carey Price. But I'd like to know what everybody else's opinion is on that.
Yeah, I'd be very curious. You know, Carey Price would be interesting. I think he would get, I don't want to say grandfathered in as a goaltender. If he wants to play and he's playing and he's healthy and he's in a spot, I think he would be playing. He's earned it. Carter Hart. And then you look at who's having good years, right? I mean, you're right. It's not a long list. Like, I'm trying to look at some of the numbers, and I mean, Carter Hart jumps off the page. Tristan Jarry would be in the conversation, I'm sure, from Pittsburgh. He's got them in, I think, into your top 5 now, playing really well. Matt Murray's played really well in Toronto and kind of revitalized his career. But when you think of guys like Matt Murray and Tristan Jarry, does Team Canada jump off the page to you? It doesn't, because they haven't really been there at the highest level. I mean, maybe World Juniors, but not at this level. So you're right. It's it's a thin list. And, Marc-Andre Fleury is a name that probably is higher on that list than a goaltender of his age should be. But we're pretty thin at that spot, I think, right now.
Well, you, about 10 minutes after I did, went to NHL.com and looked at the stats for the goalies. There's no Canadians in the top 3 of anything. Saves, save percentage, goals against average, wins. They're all Russians, Swedes. How did this happen?
I know.
But it's not new. Kelly, Rudy, and I have been having this talk for the last 10, 15 years. I don't get it. You would think Canada, we're the richest nation in producing hockey players, and we can't produce goalies mass production. I don't get it, and that ain't my job to figure it out. But I'm saying right now, Carey Price and Karahat. And I'll be watching Tristan Jarry live tonight with Pittsburgh, and we'll see. But he's got a lot of room, as far as I'm concerned, to grow to catch those 2 other guys who have incidentally represented the country in international competitions before. Regarding those jerseys, viewer Paul Jefferson says Dave Keon is who he thinks of with that Leafs jersey. John Ohm says Johnny Bauer. John William Bauer, nicknamed the China Wall, was a Canadian Hockey Hall of Fame goalie who won 4 Stanley Cups during his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs. How about that?
How about that?
John has this uncanny ability to make you believe that it's him that's writing this. He's stealing it from somewhere. And I'm afraid to ask whether it's Wikipedia or the Hockey Hall of Fame website. I don't know, but he's always got the goods. Jenna checking in from Southern California. She says some good wins last night, keeping my Sabres alive in the wild card race. Buffalo's at Colorado tonight. 12 games in the NHL. We'll talk about those a little later. We got our CFL news coming up, a little NBA talk, some Dub Hub. But I won't make anybody wait any longer. Darren, I asked you to have your NFL top 5 ready to go as we enter Week 5, kicking off tonight with Thursday Night Football, 49ers Seahawks. Who are your NFL top 5 in 60 seconds?
Number 5, the Dallas Cowboys. They won 4 in a row, and they're putting up points, 25, 54, 28, and 40 points in the last 4 games. Chiefs are number 4. They got the number 2 scoring offense. They're first on third down, but they've only won, 5 of their wins have been by 1 possession or less. That's why they're not higher. They're not blowing teams out. Ahead of the Chiefs are the 49ers in third. They've won 6 in a row, and they haven't allowed more than 17 points in a game since the middle of October. Like, their defense is really good in San Fran. Number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals. They've won 7 of their last 8 against the toughest part of their schedule. They beat the Titans, the Chiefs, and the Browns. Jamar Chase is back for the last 2 weeks. They're rolling. And number 1 is the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 12-1, number 1 offense, number 1 pass D. They've rolled everybody, and they're starting to flex their muscles. Looking forward, Rod, Christmas Eve will be the biggest test for Philadelphia when they play the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, baby. 1, Philadelphia. 2, Cincinnati. 3, San Francisco. 4, Kansas City. 5, Dallas.
Got it.
Nice work. We'll talk about that and more. We've got some CFL items to get to. More NFL, NBA, whatever you want to talk about, I will open the viewer comments next. On the way, Matt Sekeres, by the way, Jim Lang and Sammy Cosentino. It is the RP Show. We're live on YouTube, on the streams today, and on the radio, WQEE 99.1 FM.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Smoky in the air, that's a lot of fun. Big time, big time, big time, big time. Big casino.
And that's a wrap on summer, everyone. Things are about to get back to busy. Work, school, errands, they're all coming back. That's why we make buying easy at Capital Ford Lincoln. We have a great selection of brand new F-150s in stock. Drive it off the lot today. Reserve an incoming unit or pre-order the perfect vehicle for you. And make some cold hard cash by selling us your used vehicle. We pay big and you can skip the hassle of selling privately. Plus, our service department is always here to help with any make or model. Capital Ford Lincoln, making back to busy easy.
You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might injure your back in a way that causes nerve damage or partial loss of mobility. Take safer steps with WorkSafeSask.ca.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
Hey, honey, can you get one of the kids to show me how this Twitter thing works? Honey, I need to get on Instagram. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
Welcome back, everybody. The slightest of apologies only for throwing so much at you in the opening segment. And it's actually a good thing because the show does not drag. As we bring in the Moose, the show does not drag. Darren, it moves very fast. As we've said before, it's designed that way. We can talk about many sports from many locations for as long as you want. But my point is, there's a lot of topics on the table, right?
There is.
Yeah, so Jake Hughes, Canucks fan, living in Calgary, number one, says, Matt Sekeres, did I hear that right? You did, from Sekeres and Price, Vancouver. We'll get your Canucks talk and maybe a little BC Lions. Jake goes on to say starting goalies for Team Canada, Flower, Hart, Blackwood. No wrong answers, obviously, and that World Cup isn't for at least another year and a half. So who knows who's going to be playing well by then. And I really hope politics doesn't necessarily enter into it at that time. But Mackenzie Blackwood, I'm not sure that he's earned it. Carter Hart, I'm not sure he has earned it either. Flower, 3 Stanley Cups, played at the World Juniors, has not been on Canada's roster at the Olympics, Marc-Andre Fleury. For whatever reason, I don't know. And the other thing was our jersey poll today. Leafs retro and Ottawa retro, and we're asking who you think of when you look at those jerseys. And Ted in Red Deer says that old Leafs jersey, Harold Ballard. He thinks of, the jersey makes him think of a former owner, and I get it too. Whatever comes to mind. That's what's fun about this, and we ask for the audience participation. And just one more. Landon, watching on YouTube, says, hey, Rod, would you guys ever make clips of the show and post them on the YouTube channel? I think you could benefit from it, and we would sure enjoy it. We do that, don't we? I don't know. That's not my deal.
Bingo!
Yeah, check it out.
There, are they not?
We definitely throw clips up. We don't throw a lot of clips up. We throw different clips on YouTube, different ones on Twitter, different ones on Instagram. So make sure you're following us on all the platforms to get a different experience on each one. And that's kind of the idea.
You'll find all our stuff. Alan Hordell, who is a goalie aficionado, something like myself, writes in and says, flour and price is the only answer. Simple. Yeah, well, again, there's no bigger Marc-Andre Fleury fan than me. But he has stubbed his toe in international competition. Dare I say the 2003 World Juniors. And why do I remember that? Well, we all remember it 20 years later.
But we're a long ways removed from the days where Canada was choosing between Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, Ed Belfour, Curtis Joseph, Roberto Luongo, who all could have stepped up and been a starting goaltender. And that was just the top of the list. Just because you were having a good year, you didn't even get into the conversation because those guys had it anchored down for years. We're a long way from that.
Well, maybe that's why we didn't develop goalies back then. We just thought it was handled. And it was handled for a really long time. And now it's not. Ted in Red Deer says Jordan Bennington is having a comeback year. Should be in the discussion. Richmond Hill, Ontario product, I would say he's in the discussion. And you remember the last Olympics, I don't think Canada even had a camp. We can have a camp to decide this? Can we say, let's bring the 3 best and see who outplays each other in the camp of the pre-tournament games before we make a decision? I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Randy in Winnipeg says Fleury might not even be playing in 2025. That's true. Regarding those jerseys, my cousin Christine writes in Medicine Hat, and she says, Ken Dryden? What about him? You remember Ken Dryden's Montreal Canadiens lighting those jerseys on fire? Is that what you remember? Because, I guess there's no wrong answers. You look at a Leafs jersey and you think of Ken Dryden, that would probably be all I would think of. Is you remember Ken Dryden's Montreal Canadiens kicking the crap out of them all the time. Anyways, there's your topics. Some of them, I'm still moving. Wayne in Victoria, BC says, by the way, this is why this is the fastest 2 hours on TV, and I think he's right. It does move fast. We throw a lot of stuff at you. I've been doing this a long time. I know it works. Obligatory Canadian Football League stuff. If you want to know what's going on in the CFL, where do you go, Darren? Where do you go? If you wanted to know right now, what's the hottest thing?
Yeah, you go to 3 Down. I go to 3 Down to find out what's going on.
And that's what I did. And I went to 3 Down Nation. Top 2 articles right there, right now, is that the BC Lions will know sooner than later, according to their head coach, Rick Campbell, whether Nathan Rourke is coming back in 2023 or not. The most outstanding Canadian in the CFL, WestJet, as I like to call him. Clearly, they'd like to be able to plan. Let's be honest, their fortunes are entirely tied to Nathan Rourke. That's a fact. What were they, 8-0, 8-1 with him? Then he gets hurt, can't win a game for the most part.
Yeah.
Shoot, he returned in the playoffs, and they couldn't win with him. So the fortunes of the BC Lions hinge on their quarterback, which incidentally, welcome to pro football. Whose doesn't? Unless your name's San Francisco 49ers. But there is some also talk about that Saskatchewan offensive coordinator, Kelly Jeffrey, and what he thinks his team's capable of. So I'll get to that. But just on the Nathan Rourke thing, I'm not hanging on every word of his NFL tour. I guess he's worked out for the Colts, the Jaguars, the Raiders, I think the Vikings. I'm kind of the wake me up when it's over thing. Tell me where he signs, and then we'll go. I could see why the BC Lions and their fans are hanging on every word of it. I'm just not. How about you?
Yeah, I'm following it for sure and curious to see where he ends up. And hopefully it's in a spot where he's going to have an opportunity to play and have some success, maybe fight to win a backup job in the National Football League. He's not going to win a starting job in the NFL right away, but when it comes to the Lions, yeah, that's going to be a huge hole. And Vernon Adams Jr. is a fine quarterback, and, you know, they'll be able to win games with him. I don't have a doubt about that. But will they be the same team? No. They also lost Brian Burnham to retirement. And forget about production. Let's leadership in the locker room. Now you've lost two big anchors on that offense, right? In your quarterback and your veteran leader, and who's been your star receiver for a decade in Burnham. So that's a big hole, that 1-2 punch to fill. They have to reestablish that. So the sooner they know about Nathan Rourke, the better it'll be for the organization, and they can get into training camp with a brand new mindset and let Vernon Adams try and set a new culture on that offense. But yeah, it will be different. It'll be an adjustment.
A mandated thing that the CFL does, they make every team announce 10 players on their negotiation list yearly. And I guess BC's, from what I saw, 10 of them were quarterbacks. So it sounds like they're planning on moving on from Nathan Rourke. And good for them, by the way, for letting him out of his contract. Some teams wouldn't. I've seen it. Good for them for doing it. Walking back for a second, couple things. Thank you, Jake, BC Lions fan. We'll take all BC Lions fans and Canucks fans. We need more of them where we are in BC on Channel 924 and Alberta on TELUS. Jake says, do you think Bo Levi would consider the Lions? Warmer, covered stadium, playing in a big city. I think Bo would consider all options. He'd be dumb if he didn't, which actually will take us into our next comment, by the way, after this, on those Canadian goalies topic. Regarding Jordan Bennington, if he would be in the conversation. Ted in Winnipeg says, Bennington's having a terrible year. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. Have you watched the highlights? Have you seen the score sheets? And Landon MacArthur says he would get kicked out of international play very quick. He's got a Stanley Cup. A lot of guys don't. I was just saying this to a guy this morning regarding business, being a self-starter, whether it's your goalie, your quarterback, whomever. You'd rather have to rein a guy in because he's got too much fire, or gal, than poke him in the ass with a sharp stick to get him going every day. I know what I'd rather have. And for that reason, I think Bennington would be in the conversation. But regarding this, I said, what's popping in the CFL? At 3downnation.com right now, they quote the offensive coordinator of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Kelly Jeffrey, who was just announced as such on Tuesday officially. I don't know if you saw the quote, but he said he thinks that the Rough Riders with Cody Fajardo are capable of winning the Grey Cup. That Cody Fajardo has the ability, what did he say, the toughness, the intelligence. We could win a Grey Cup with Cody Fajardo. And maybe I'm reading this somewhat jaded, but I'm sitting there going, did you want to tell your coach and GM who have lit him on fire and sent him out of town? It just smacks to me of they are nowhere near on the same page with anything of what's going on there. The offensive coordinator says we can win. And I didn't watch the news conference. I'm just looking at the quotes. Why would you say that unless it was just a rhetorical thing? But that bridge, similar to Marc-Andre Fleury in Vegas, Fajardo and the Riders, it is in flames, dude. What are you taking a fire hose to it now? It seems very disjointed to me. You?
It is. It's very disjointed. Unless there's conversations going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but we just, heard from Craig Dickinson, who mentioned that they're going to bring some veterans into camp and let the best person win the job, right? And that's what we got out of that. There's no mention of Fajardo being that guy or being somebody that you want to give another shot to. But for Kelly Jeffries, I like the answer in terms of believing in your guy, if he's going to be the guy, or keeping the door open to potentially bringing him back. And you know what? I think he could have more success with Cody Fajardo and get him back to where he was. Look at Jason Moss, from an outsider's perspective, watching this as a football guy, and what I observed from interactions on the sidelines and how they operated that offense, Jason Moss and Cody Fajardo were not on the same page. Cody Fajardo was not the quarterback Jason Moss wanted. He didn't have the skill set that suited what Jason Moss was trying to do on offense. It didn't mesh. Kelly Jeffrey seems like a guy who would look at Cody and try and tailor an offense to fit his skills. Even if he doesn't think it's the best offense he can put together, he would do what's best for the guys that he has. At least that's what I get in conversations, not knowing the guy. So can he do a better job with Cody? Probably, but he might never get that opportunity because, as you mentioned, there's no relationship there right now.
Everybody's saying they've moved on. So when I saw the highlight or the headline, I was like, what? It just proved to me that nobody's on the same page in that organization. It's what more evidence do you need? Anyways, one last point. I want to say this. In theaters now, Landmark Cinemas, Violent Night. Moose gives it 1.5 stars. I'll be watching it this weekend when a team of mercenaries breaks into a wealthy family compound on Christmas Eve, taking everyone inside hostage. The team isn't prepared for a surprise combatant. Santa Claus, played by David Harbour, is on the grounds, and he's about to show why this Nick is no saint. Violent Night. That's Violent Night. In theaters now, Landmark Cinemas. Check it out. Tell us what you think. Moose says, don't take the kids. We'll see you later on in hour 2, Darren.
You bet.
Matt Sekeres next. It's the RP Show, Game Plus Television. YouTube Live on the streams, your favorite podcast platform, and WQEE 99.1 FM.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Is it time to take your event online? Bring it to IKS Live. We've got a fully customized virtual event platform with remote guest support for your next fundraiser, talk show, conference, performance, and more. IKS Live offers live streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube and pre-recorded capabilities, both in our studio with green screen available and on location with pre-production and post-production services. Visit us at ikslive.ca.
You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might fracture your wrist, resulting in a lifetime of painful arthritis. Take safer steps with WorksafeSask.ca.
Universal Collision Center is Saskatchewan's premier auto body shop. Our extensive process ensures that every vehicle that comes through our state-of-the-art facilities is returned pre-accident condition, and that every UCC customer experience is an easy one. We're certified to repair all makes, all models, and all luxury brands, and Universal Auto Spa offers full-service detailing packages to suit you and your vehicle. Plus, we're the official body shop of your Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Universal Collision Center, 3910 Rochdale Boulevard and 2355 First Avenue in Regina.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Experts in all residential and commercial plumbing services, and proudly serving Regina and area since 1978. Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. We'll treat you right.
I gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
And that's a wrap on summer, everyone. Things are about to get back to busy. Work, school, errands, they're all coming back. That's why we make buying easy at Capital GMC. Reserve your brand new truck or SUV today. Check out our great selection of in-stock GM-certified pre-owned trucks and make some cold hard cash by selling us your used vehicle. We pay big and you can skip the hassle of selling privately. Plus, our service department is always here to help with any make or model. Capital GMC, making back to busy easy.
Oh, yeah, he's back. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
RP Show continues. A wonderful Thursday. 12 NHL games tonight, including the Pittsburgh Penguins here in Florida taking on the Panthers. Can't wait to see that one. Thursday night football kicks off Week 15. 49ers at Seahawks. We're going to be talking NHL and CFL with our next guest. One half of Sekeres and Price out of Vancouver, Matt Sekeres. Matt, Merry Christmas, my friend. Great to see you. Can we jump right into the Vancouver Canucks discussion? Shootout win at Calgary last night, 6 in a row on the road. What is this team thinking its future might be here over the next couple months?
Well, we can jump into it only after I wish you a very happy birthday, Rod. I understand we've got a big one coming up here. So happy birthday. I hope you have a great time down there in South Florida.
Thank you.
The Vancouver Canucks are a team that can score a lot of goals. And because they can score a lot of goals, there are nights where they can be quite competitive. And we saw that last night against the Calgary Flames. They had an 0-5-2 start, a second straight year where just a wretched start puts them way behind the 8 ball early on in October. And they've done a pretty game job of fighting their way out of that hole. They've been pretty good night to night. Now, they got shut out Saturday at home against Minnesota for the first time this year, but they've been a pretty good team night to night in scoring goals. They're one of the better power plays in the league. And on the nights where they get some semblance of defense or goaltending, they can be very competitive in the NHL, particularly in a Western Conference, Roddy, that, let's face it, this is not the best top to bottom conference, right? Like, you have 4 teams at the bottom of the West, Anaheim, Chicago, San Jose, and Arizona, that are in deep rebuilds here and should be, for the most part, 2 automatic points when you face them. And really, when you take a look at it, that middle class of the NHL's West hasn't exactly looked as strong as even it did last year. So, look, the Canucks have big trouble here with Thatcher Demko still going to miss about another month. They're starting goaltender. The goaltending has not been good at all this year. But after that win in Calgary last night, they're right there fighting and scrapping for the final playoff spot.
Well, you mentioned a wretched start. It was the worst, as you know, in franchise history. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago. JT Miller was apologizing for himself and everybody else after the games. Where did it turn around? Was there a spot you could pinpoint?
Well, I mean, context matters. And that first road trip, I believe, there was the second straight year where they started with a 6-game road trip. So what became clear was away from home, they were going to struggle. The other thing that we should mention about this Canucks team this year is they truly have fattened up on some of the lesser lights in the National Hockey League. This is a team that has looked good against bad teams and not so good against some of the better teams in the National Hockey League. So, they were able to turn it around sort of the later part of October. And really, when you get rid of that 0-5-2 start, and take a look at the NHL standings, that's not too bad. 13-8 and 13-8-1 since then, Rod. So, all things considered, that's pretty game. That's pretty healthy.
Well, I would assume there's no trade talk. We've got Canucks fans here. One of your biggest fans, Jake Hughes. Well, I would hope they are not. Why would they be talking about it with this team on a run right now?
Well, they did this last year. They kept all their players and hoped to make a desperate push for the playoffs in the final quarter of the season. They fell short. At some point, this franchise does need to add some of those younger players on the cheap entry level contracts. Rod, they have one of the thinnest prospect pipelines in the National Hockey League. They have made very few draft picks over the last decade, despite the fact that they weren't necessarily a cup contending team. But Horvat is a free agent. It very much looks right now, and things can change, but it very much looks like right now that he's going to test free agency and move on to greener pastures. So there is a pretty significant trade chip there and a centerman that would look good with any contending club. Saskatchewan boy Luke Shen has been fantastic for them, really rehabilitated and relaunched his career here. He's a UFA as well, a player who oozes character and has a big market around the NHL because he's playing on such a good salary. And then their first-year Russian rookie, the winger Andrei Kuzmenko, who was the European free agent that every team was chasing this past summer. He's on an entry-level deal. His agent has already said they're going to test free agency, and why wouldn't you when you could have 31, 32 teams bidding for the services of a mid-20s player without the restrictions of the entry-level salary this time around. So you've got some pretty significant trade chips there, and that's not even mentioning Brock Besser, whose agent has already been empowered to go out and find a deal. So, yeah, there could be quite a few changes afoot here for the Vancouver Canucks, despite a stated goal of trying to make the playoffs again this year.
I'm glad to have you on and explain this, and thank you, Clark, for lining it up. I'm enjoying this immensely. But I have to say this. Grey Cup's not the same without you, Matt. It ain't. And I got to ask you, I'm sure it killed you not to be there, man. It was a lot of fun there. But the BC Lions weren't there. No. I would love your take on the Nathan Rourke situation, and if this franchise's fortunes are directly tied to him. But if he signs in the NFL, do they go south or can they keep the ship afloat?
Yeah. So the glass half full view would be that, look, that was a fantastic defense last year from the British Columbia Lions. Ryan Phillips, their defensive coordinator, did a heck of a job. Their secondary was extraordinary, filled with CFL veterans who really know how to play the game. In fact, reminded me a little bit of some of the terrific secondaries that Winnipeg had rolled out there in their back-to-back Grey Cup years. So the defense was championship worthy last year. Now, Vernon Adams, he may well be the quarterback who's just good enough to get you, Rod, that he can get you to a certain level, but he can't get you over the top. Went to a couple of the home games late in the season against Ottawa and Winnipeg where Adams looked fantastic right out of the chute, making plays with his arm and with his feet. Of course, he's got to bring both of those elements to the table. And then there were games where VA and the offense were a total outage for the Leos. So, he's 29 years old. Quarterbacks do peak a little bit later. You wonder if Vernon Adams has maybe figured out the game at this stage or will figure out the game as an entrenched starter with the Lions if Nathan Rourke does move on, and I do think Nathan Rourke will move on. You also wonder whether the co-general managers, and they were just re-signed yesterday, Rick Campbell, the head coach, and Neil McAvoy, who's been a long-time personnel guy here, whether they get active on the trade or free agent market with established Canadian Football League quarterbacks this offseason. So I think there's a lot of different ways that this can go. I heard your preamble there. They will absolutely miss Brian Burnham in the passing game. He's been such a security blanket, so tough, so willing to go over the middle, take the hit, to make the big catch for the first down or for the touchdown. Of course, his highlight reel, few have a highlight reel as impressive as Brian Burnham. So, but the receiver group was pretty good last year too. So this is a pretty good football team. I'm not sure it's a complete football team. And you're right. So much, as always, will pivot on the quarterback and how productive he is, whether that's Vernon Adams or somebody else.
Well, they're on the rise. That's all you can ask. Hey, a shout out for Sekeres and Price, if you don't mind. Tell our people where they can find you, because between yourself, Winnipeg Sports Talk, and a few others, there's some great stuff being put out there every day. Tell them where they can catch yours.
Yeah, absolutely, Rod. A kinship here amongst us independent grassroots media. Thank you for the opportunity. SekeresandPrice.com. We do a daily podcast. We also do a daily pre- and post-game podcast, a rink-wide podcast with our colleagues, Jeff Pedersen and Andrew Wadden, and they want to follow. They can follow along at Sekeres. They can follow along at Sekeres and Price on Twitter and SekeresandPrice.com to listen to episodes.
It's awesome seeing you. Awesome hearing from you, buddy. I miss you. We'll see you in the new year. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Happy birthday again, Rod. Be well.
Thank you, buddy. The wonderful Matt Sekeres joining us from Vancouver. We'll be back with a sports update, some dub results and talk, and viewer takeover. On the way, Jim Lang and Sammy Cosentino. It is the RP Show. No television today, Game Plus, but we are live streaming on YouTube and the radio, WQEE 99.1 FM.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might fracture your wrist, resulting in a lifetime of painful arthritis. Take safer steps with WorksafeSask.ca.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. BDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might hit your head and cause a lifelong injury. Take safer steps with WorksafeSask.ca.
And that's a wrap on summer, everyone. Things are about to get back to busy. Work, school, errands, they're all coming back. That's why we make buying easy at Capital Ford Lincoln. We have a great selection of brand new F-150s in stock. Drive it off the lot today. Reserve an incoming unit or pre-order the perfect vehicle for you. And make some cold hard cash by selling us your used vehicle. We pay big and you can skip the hassle of selling privately. Plus, our service department is always here to help with any make or model. Capital Ford Lincoln, making back to busy easy.
Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Laid back and kicking it, let's head back to the studio. Here's Rod.
Glad to have you aboard, everybody. We got some banging viewer comments I'm going to get to here in a second, but I will jump into a sports update in a moment, and I'll tell you again, we're pretty excited just this week. Nationally ranked as a hockey podcast in Canada. Not easy to do. Good work to the entire IKS crew, RP show staff, and you, the viewers and listeners. Thank you so much. From last night, the Regina Pats battled back from 3 goals down in the Western Hockey League to beat the visiting Spokane Chiefs 4-3 in the Brandt Center. It was Spokane's first visit to the Queen City since October of 2018. In Lethbridge, Chase Pauls and Cole Shepard both recorded a goal and a helper as the Hurricanes won their 5th in a row, beating the Edmonton Oil Kings 4-1. In Everett, Jackson Berezowski scored 2 goals. Everett held off a Tri-City rally to win 5-3. In Prince Albert, Shane Smith scored what proved to be the winner as Medicine Hat edged PA 3-2. In Swifty, Andrew Crystal had 2 goals and 2 assists as Kelowna defeated Swift Current 5-2 at the iPlex. And in Victoria, Jaden Lipinski recorded 2 goals and a helper as Vancouver topped Victoria 5-3. This sports update is for the Kinsman Telemiracle 47 online 50-50 raffle. If you enjoy what we do here, everybody, would you go over there and purchase your tickets today? We have just over 24 hours until the deadline, till the actual draw. Telemiracle5050.com. I was on it yesterday. It's working great. buy your tickets and support the wonderful work of the Kinsman Foundation and help out our partners. Where do I start? Sam Cosentino next hour and Jim Lang talking NFL, NHL, World Juniors. David writes in, he is in Winnipeg. He says, I've been busy this week. Why are you not on Game Plus TV? Not my deal. We were preempted. But he goes on to say, I'm now watching you on YouTube. Glad I found you. 49ers fan here. Even without Jimmy Garoppolo, I like San Fran as a serious Super Bowl contender. They have it all. McCaffrey on O, an incredible D. I am not a betting man, but if I was, I would lay some money down on San Francisco. We'll talk about that next hour with Jimmy Lang. How about that? Canada's foremost NFL expert. 902-518-3033, the number to reach us right here in the studio. So Serena was on here yesterday doubling down on her comments on Connor Bedard and how his defensive play lapsed, and that was why he was benched at the World Juniors last year. Ryan Thomas writes in, a former Regina Pats captain, says, Roddy, I know you know better. Why do you agree with Serena with her assessment of Bedard at the World Juniors? She does realize he was only 16 and still put up 8 points. There's only been a handful of players that make Team Canada at 16. Check out their stats. McDavid, 4 points. Crosby, 5 points. Spezza, 2 points. Lindros, 4 points. Okay, Tommy. Number one, what do you know about offense? You played in the league at 16. Who was your coach? What was he telling you about defensive play? I'm going to tell you right now, next week, we'll be airing our World Junior special, and we've got Peter Labardius on talking about it. Sam Cosentino. Who else, Clark? Well, Serena again. Obviously, Moose. Brent Kissio, thank you, from Hockey Canada. We're going to be talking about all this next week. And I do not, spoiler alert. The reason Connor Bedard was benched, and he was benched, nobody would say it. She said it, right? Nobody would even admit that I didn't want to admit it. I thought he was hurt why he wasn't playing. No, it was because of a lack of a commitment to the D zone. You're talking about points. They're not. He was a defensive liability when it mattered the most, and that's why he was benched. So, last minute of play in hour one. And, man, people only going to hear what they want to hear. But when I have NHL scouts texting me going, she's right. What more do you want? I would say take it up with her, but she's not on Twitter. From John in Edmonton, Rod and Moose, what do you think is wrong with the Edmonton Oil Kings this season? They lost all their good players.
Bingo!
Right? Their WHL championship squad. Oh, Christine, my cousin Christine, she says Raptors lost a close one. I meant to mention this. De'Aaron Fox had 27 points and 10 assists. And Sacramento held on to beat the Raptors 124-123 last night. In Orlando, my Atlanta Hawks lost 135-126, but I just discovered they're in a rebuild. All is forgiven. Sammy and Jim next hour. Stick around.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
And that's a wrap on summer, everyone. Things are about to get back to busy. Work, school, errands, they're all coming back. That's why we make buying easy at Capital GMC. Reserve your brand new truck or SUV today. Check out our great selection of in-stock GM certified pre-owned trucks. And make some cold hard cash by selling us your used vehicle. We pay big and you can skip the hassle of selling privately. Plus, our service department is always here to help with any make or model. Capital GMC, making back to busy easy.
You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might fracture your wrist, resulting in a lifetime of painful arthritis. Take safer steps with WorksafeSask.ca.
I gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
Easy snacking all around. Something everyone can love.
Listen, I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm getting sick of the Dallas Cowboys, thanks to them. I don't see Falcons fans tweeting, why don't you talk about our team? I don't see San Jose Sharks fans writing ESPN, how come you don't talk about our team? Okay, I can't. I just need to woo-sa and block out the noise. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hi, everybody. It is the RP Show. It's hour 2. We're coming at you live YouTube today on the streams, No Game Plus TV, and the radio, WQEE. Changing things up a little bit. Pausing the discussion. The World Junior Hockey Tournament, the world's largest hockey tournament, is in the Maritimes beginning Boxing Day, and we're doing a special preview of it. And that's what we're going to talk about in this segment. Here in hour 2 as we lift the lid with our good friend Sam Cosentino from Rogers Sportsnet. He and I, let's say it, Sammy, because it was so great. Along with Andrew Walker, we're part of the broadcast crew in 2012 on 27 radio stations across the country, Sportsnet Radio. A very special year. And Sammy, before we talk about this year, first of all, Merry Christmas, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, Roddy. Great to see you. Happy holidays to you. And from what I understand, maybe a happy 29th birthday. You're looking great, pal.
Yeah, well, you're only as old as you feel, and that's why I'm in Florida. Old and worn out, Sammy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, we'll talk about the 2012 tournament in a moment. It was a special tournament, and you see a lot of guys still in the NHL from that. Huberdeau, Boone Jenner, there's a ton, but that's a topic for another time. This year's World Junior team, which was announced on Monday the 12th, December 12th. How did you feel? Any surprises for you when it came out?
The one surprise I had was maybe Owen Beck out of Mississauga. He was the first pick in the second round to Montreal, and by all accounts, you know, he made a push for a spot on the Montreal roster. It didn't come to fruition for him, but the Montreal Canadiens were more than happy with what they got. They knew they were getting a good player, but maybe not someone quite as detailed as Owen is. You know, Caden Bankier's a kid who plays with Logan Stankoven out in Kamloops, and so there's probably a pretty good connection there between those two guys. You have a Western Hockey League head coach in Dennis Williams, and then you have a management group from Ontario that kind of moves things around here a little bit, but gives you a bunch of different looks. But just, Owen in the face-off circle, as a right shot guy, good details in his game. I think he can be an effective guy who would play lower in your lineup should he be required to do so. Would have been a great fit, but who am I to argue? This is pretty much the same management group that put together that great team in the summer, and by all accounts had their fingers into the pie when the Canadian team won in 2021 in August at the under 18s. We're seeing some of those players on this team as well. So, you can't argue, I guess, until it's over. But that's probably the only surprise there for me would be Owen Beck of Mississauga.
Well, I'll say it again, as I have for a few times on this show, this World Junior Special. Are the highest ratings we've ever had. Podcast downloads were in Alberta last summer at the World Junior Tournament. I mean, I knew Canadians and hockey fans loved the World Juniors. I didn't realize that much. So that's why we're doing this today with you and our special guest talking about it. And now I bring this up. You've known Shane Wright a really long time. Now of the Seattle Kraken, but loaned to Team Canada for these World Juniors. He didn't play in the summertime. We knew he slipped from the first projection down to fourth. Didn't go to the Habs, went to the Kraken. You've seen him come up through junior. The sense, here's mine, that he's got a chip on his shoulder, maybe a bit of a cocky kid. I don't know. You know him. What's the misconception on Shane Wright of this Canadian squad?
Well, to be honest with you, he's a wonderful young man, and he just kind of wants to go about his business of playing hockey. And he was able to do that going back to when I was watching him in minor hockey at 14 years old with the Don Mills Flyers, and a guy who was a really exceptional player at that age, exceptional coming into the Ontario Hockey League. COVID hits, he doesn't go anywhere. He gets criticized by a number of NHL teams for not trying to pursue playing while the shutdown in Ontario was happening. And that really kind of set the course sideways for him a little bit. And people really, for the first time in his life, started to challenge him. Hey, we see your work rate isn't always what it should be in Ontario Hockey League games. Why didn't you pursue going to play at least somewhere when Ontario was shut down? What do you have to say about certain teammates and situations and coaches that you've played for, so on and so forth? And so a lot of that stuff that he was challenged on had never happened for Shane before because everything came so easily and so naturally to him. And I think it made him feel uncomfortable. I think it elicited some answers that NHL teams didn't like in the interview process. And clearly the Montreal Canadiens felt that they had a better sense of what Juraj Slafkovsky was going to bring to the table. The next two teams, I didn't think were looking to address the center ice position with someone of Shane's ilk. And all of a sudden he falls to number 4. But he's a wonderful young man. I don't think he's handled the adversity as well as he would have liked. But then again, he hasn't had a ton of it to get the experience in handling adversity. So when I look at Shane, I look at a situation where he's going to be really comfortable. Brennan Othman's an old teammate of his going back to their minor hockey days. They played in the line at the under 18s together. They had a ton of success. I would expect them to be reunited here and put Shane in a really comfortable position. He is going to feel the heat, but he's feeling the heat in a peer group as opposed to, wow, you should have gone here in the draft or you should be in the NHL and all these other sorts of things that make him a guy that should fit into an older group. He's not quite ready for that yet. So I think this is going to be a huge experience for him to get back to his peer group, to understand the pressure of what it's like to succeed in the peer group, and I think he's going to have success there.
Ginormous discussion over Connor Bedard being benched at last year's World Juniors on this World Junior special and also on this show today. And Serena Taylor, our hockey analyst, has pointed it out. She's not the only one. A lot of people don't want to hear it. That was not his draft year. This is. Sam, what's the pressure on Connor Bedard going into this tournament?
Well, it's huge. I mean, you see a 4-goal game from a guy, and that hasn't really happened very much at all. You're looking at a guy who was on pace to break some records, long-standing Canadian records, and then the tournament gets shut down, and then he goes and is a guy who, when he was selected first overall as the WHL's first exceptional player, has always had these expectations. For whatever reason, he's been able to handle those things. I think, playing for John Paddock and Regina, He's had to clean up some of the details in his game, and he may not be perfect away from the puck or on the D side, but he does one thing that's extremely hard to do in hockey at any level, and that's the ability to score goals. The way it comes off his stick, the deception off the blade, his curl and drag, and being able to find little lanes between defensemen's legs or using their players in front as a screen. It's an innate ability that not a lot of people possess. And so I think Connor's he's poised to do big things. I mean, listen, Rod, in the WHL, he's got a 17-point lead in the scoring race. And I think about 5 other 2023 draft eligibles, another and Tanner Howe, his teammate, who's a 2024 draft eligibles, all sitting inside the top 10 of Western Hockey League scoring. That's really unheard of. And Connor Bedard is the leader of the pack, and by a long way. So I think that speaks volumes as to where Connor is with his game. And again, another guy who I think is going to have a ton of success here. And who knows? Maybe he ends up playing with Shane, gets bumped over to the wing, plays with Shane, plays with Brennan Hoffman, and that line finds success as they did at the under 18s.
Hey, you're the prospect guy. How much is it affecting Matvei Mishko that this is the second year that Russia will not be in the World Juniors? What's it doing to his draft stock?
Well, I think the tournament in general suffers because of it. From a pure hockey perspective, I'm not going to get into the geopolitical thing. I think everyone knows where people stand on the geopolitical issues. From a pure hockey perspective, in any tournament you get to that decides a world championship, you want to play best on best. We hear this argument from National Hockey Leaguers all the time. They want a best on best scenario. And quite frankly, you don't achieve that without the Russians there. The Russians are always in the mix for a medal. They're always in contention for a gold medal. They're uber talented. They do things a little bit differently than the way things are done in North America. So that twist to the tournament sometimes adds some entertainment. And you and I saw it back in 2012. But it takes away from the tournament best on best. For Matvei in particular, there's going to be enough eyes, NHL eyes on him over there. There's going to be enough you're going to be able to do through video scouting, and there's going to be enough international currency before the geopolitical issues started for him to be considered a top 5 hockey player in this draft class. Now, geopolitical thing, the lengthy contract that still exists with his SKA team in Russia, and then does the player want to come over? Is he afraid to come over? What team that's going to be picking in the top 5 is going to be able to take that sort of risk? So aside from a pure hockey playing perspective, he deserves to be in the conversation of Fantilli and Leo Carlson and Connor Bedard. From where he ends up going on draft day is going to be a real crapshoot. But it definitely hurts him not being at this tournament to be able to strut his stuff against what I expect will be a number of draft eligibles in this event.
We got about 5-6 minutes left. Those are the key issues I wanted to ask you. I mean, what are yours? Who are the leaders coming out? Lou says Latvia's got 14 to 15 players returning, and they had a great showing last year. What do you expect from them? And USA got bounced by Czechia on the quarterfinal day. They got to be ticked off. Who do you think's going to be left standing in the end of this thing?
The U.S. is really, really good. And in fact, they're going to probably end up looking a little bit younger than what we've seen. And I think about last year's draft with the Gauthier, Snuggerud, Cooley. Those guys played in a line together at the under 18 program. They've all advanced into the college level now. They're all having really good success at the NCAA level, playing against higher competition, not to mention what they've had previously. Luke Hughes in the back end, so on and so forth. So they're going to be a really, really difficult team to beat. The Swedes are loaded, and I mean loaded with National Hockey League drafted prospects, maybe a little bit weaker in the back end in goal. But I love their forward group. It's deep and it's talented. The Finns are always going to give you the same effort you get all the time. I think a team that might surprise some people here, and it's going to hurt them without Slavkovsky there. But Slovakia, is a program that's sort of changed its thinking in the way they go about the game. Typically, they were a country that played not to lose, and now they've changed that mentality around. Craig Ramsey, a big part of that, coaching the national team over there, and says we want to be a country that attacks and plays to win, not sit back and be a team that tries that sits there and tries not to get beat, for example, by playing a different style. So they'll be a really good team. I think the tournament is going to be highly, highly competitive. Yeah, there's some weaker, groups. Even Latvia with its returning players. Yeah. You look at Austria, typically not a powerhouse, but essentially they're in place of the Russians. You look at the Germans, they'll be okay, but probably not there in the end. So I'm looking at the usual suspects. And without Russia being there, it might open the door for Slovakia, Czechia, kind of get back into that, into that top three and medal contention.
I got to ask you, what do you know, being a Southern Ontario guy like Mason McTavish, who won the league with Hamilton last year, why Anaheim didn't send him? Like, they just felt he's been there, done that. We had a chance to set some records here. How do you feel about him not returning to the tournament?
Anaheim has one win in what, 30, one regulation win in 30 games. I mean, is that helping a player, maintaining a role in that situation? I watched the Ducks the other night, and with where they are, he sort of has to play in their top six right now. So even though they're losing at a high pace, they're probably looking at the development. And it's that fine line, Roddy. Do you want to be on a team that continuously loses? Is that good for your development? Does it push you in terms of your adversity? The player personality definitely comes into it. Or do you give him an opportunity to go back and do things that he's already done and been pretty good at? So I suppose that's what Pat Verbeek and the Anaheim people were thinking about. But at the end of the day, they probably looked and said, we don't really have a guy to replace him on our National Hockey League roster, so he's going to stay with us. I wouldn't be averse, based on one regulation win this season, if they sent him back and gave him another type of winning experience. That, I wouldn't be overly surprised by that. I think we're at that point of no return right now, but I guess until that roster's set on the 25th at midnight, I guess that possibility always exists.
And it's just funny you mentioned that age group of this World Juniors and that under-18 tournament. Cole Sillinger, I just saw him come through here with Columbus the other night, dude. He had 11 minutes, 10 seconds of ice time. He's one of their top guys, and he never got to play for Canada at the World Juniors like his dad. And at the under-18s, he got COVID, or he was in COVID protocol. Listen, Cole will be fine, but it's too bad we never really got to see him in Hockey Canada's jersey. And I bring that up because I watched that Instagram live he did with him. What a great player and what a great kid.
Hey, let me ask you this, Roddy. If you're Cole Sillinger and Jarmo Kekalainen goes to him and says, hey, would you go play on the World Juniors? Like, what type of dilemma would you be in as Cole Sillinger? You're an established NHLer with, 74 or 5 games last year, surprising everyone to make it as an 18-year-old and playing pretty well, at times playing, a first or second line center role. Or do you say to yourself, if I leave here, even though Columbus isn't going really good right now, am I forfeiting my spot? Am I going to be able to come back? Or simply is it a financial thing? Like, I'm an NHL guy making NHL money. I don't need to go back and play at the World Juniors and try and win a gold medal. I'd be fascinated to hear your thoughts on what you would say if that situation were presented to Cole via Jarmo Kekalainen and the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Number one, I think he'd go in a second. He's like, where's my ticket? His biggest dilemma would be, who do I play for? He was born in Columbus. He's got dual citizenship. So he could play for 2 countries. That would be... He would want to go. There's no two ways about it. Of course, he would want to represent his nation, but the question would be which one?
Wow. I mean, I would think Canada because he got down the road and maybe because he hasn't
I'm
played
just saying he could.
IHF sanctioned games, he might still be eligible to play in the States. I don't think he's played in IHF sanctioned games because if you do that, once you do that, you've committed to that country for the rest of your IHF life, so to speak.
Yeah, so I would say he'd want to go. The question would be, for whom? And Canada would be his first pick. I'm saying he could play for the Americans. A very special kid with a very special resume. Sammy, Merry Christmas. Thanks for the time.
Merry Christmas, Roddy. Great to see you. Happy birthday, buddy.
We'll be right back. It's the RP Show, Game Plus Television, YouTube live streaming, and on the radio, WQEE 99.1 FM.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
And that's a wrap on summer, everyone. Things are about to get back to busy. Work, school, errands, they're all coming back. That's why we make buying easy at Capital Ford Lincoln. We have a great selection of brand new F-150s in stock. Drive it off the lot today. Reserve an incoming unit or pre-order the perfect vehicle for you. And make some cold hard cash by selling us your used vehicle. We pay big and you can skip the hassle of selling privately. Plus, our service department is always here to help with any make or model. Capital Ford Lincoln, making back to busy easy.
Easy snacking all around. Something everyone can love.
You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might injure your back in a way that causes nerve damage or partial loss of mobility. Take safer steps with WorksafeSask.ca.
Is it time to take your event online? Bring it to IKS Live. We've got a fully customized virtual event platform with remote guest support for your next fundraiser, talk show, conference, performance, and more. IKS Live offers live streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube and pre-recorded capabilities, both in our studio with green screen available and on location with pre-production and post-production services. Visit us at ikslive.ca.
Grey Eagle Resort and Casino. Grey Eagle Resort and Casino.
Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Experts in all residential and commercial plumbing services and proudly serving Regina and area since 1978. Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. We'll treat you right. Universal Collision Center is Saskatchewan's premier auto body shop. Our extensive process ensures that every vehicle that comes through our state-of-the-art facilities is returned pre-accident condition, and that every UCC customer experience is an easy one. We're certified to repair all makes, all models, and all luxury brands, and Universal Auto Spa offers full-service detailing packages to suit you and your vehicle. Plus, we're the official body shop of your Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Universal Collision Center, 3910 Rochdale Boulevard and 2355 First Avenue in Regina.
You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might hit your head and cause a lifelong injury. Take safer steps with WorksafeSask.ca.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Did you know you can catch all the best moments from the show on all our social media platforms? Now, back to the studio with Rod.
All right. Welcome back to the RP Show, everybody. Episode 904 of your favorite daytime sports talk show. I'm looking down at the NFL standings right now because the Thursday night game, Week 15 kicking off tonight, San Francisco is at Seattle, the 9-4 49ers and the 7-6 Seahawks. Let's bring in Canada's foremost NFL insider, Jim Lang, to start there. Jimbo, good to see you, buddy. Nice haircut. Hey, the 49ers have made Moose's top 5 NFL teams at 9-4 with what I think is their third string quarterback. What a story the 49ers are, huh?
The 49ers may be the story of the NFL. If that's number one, I think the Lions and what Dan Campbell's doing is number 1A. But Kyle Shanahan, his commitment to his coaching style, this way of football, the season Nick Bosa is having a defense is potential defensive player of the year caliber. But what they've done in San Francisco, going through all the quarterbacks, and they just keep playing their style of football, despite injuries, despite hips, and they keep pounding people physically and winning. And what Kyle Shanahan's doing on both sides of the football is proof that physical football can win. And you can win if a quarterback can manage the game. So it's a dangerous I mean, if you're the Seattle Seahawks tonight. And I mean, you're looking at this. Your season's on the line because you're 7-6. The Lions are hot; they're 5-1. The Giants and the Commanders are right there as well. So the battle for the final wild card in the NFC is a really tight one for the Seahawks. So they much on the line, but they have to find a way to stop Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa has been a game changer, game wrecker the last 6 weeks of the season, and the 49ers defense works off of him. And no matter who's at quarterback or who's healthy enough for the 49ers offensively, Kyle Shanahan has found a way to coach them up and make them effective and get the kind of points and yards they need to stay in games and win games.
Well, and coming off Week 14, the 49ers smashed Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and maybe this would be the nice segue into that with Tom. The headlines down here are better to retire 1 year too early than 1 year too late. Is this it for Tom, you think? Or are we completely off base and they could win the division and go on to win a Super Bowl?
I mean, they could win the division. They're not winning the Super Bowl. They're not leaving the NFC. There's no way they could handle a team like the Eagles on the road in Philadelphia. Not the way the Eagles are playing and the way Nick Sirianni has them coached. But for Tom Brady, I mean, some of the rumors I've heard is, will he end up in Las Vegas? Will he end up in San Francisco, where he grew up in the Bay Area, 49ers fan? I'm not sure if you're the 49ers and you're John Lynch and you're Kyle Shanahan, why would you want him there? Well, I don't see the upside to that. He's a diminishing asset, unfortunately. He's a legend, but he's 45. He's not getting younger. He's missing throws this year he used to not miss. He's just that little bit slower, so he has trouble avoiding contact, avoiding the rush. And he comes with a lot of baggage about how he wants the team run, how he wants the offense run. So he has limited options in the offseason because a lot of teams, you look at it down the line, like they're set a quarterback, or they have their future quarterback in waiting, and they want to give them a chance. So, I mean, he might do it. It's just because it's almost like a drug to him, Rod. He can't give it up. But, I mean, I go back that after he won that Super Bowl in Tampa, if he would have just walked away, rode off into the sunset like John Elway did when he won his last Super Bowl in Denver, his legacy is completely different. I mean, fair or not, a lot of football fans, a lot of sports fans look at Tom Brady, the way he's playing this year, as isn't that kind of sad that, you know, he's just not Tom Brady anymore. And he's not. He really isn't. And it's a combination of Tom, the team, and the way teams are defending him. What you get, I mean, what San Francisco did to Brady and the Buccaneers, I mean, it was borderline assault. They beat them up last week.
Yes, but don't forget 2 Mondays ago, and I know it was the Saints, but he led them on 2 touchdown drives in the last 2 minutes to win the game. Vintage Tom. So, yeah, let's just enjoy it because it is the end. I'm with you. And I think that we won't remember this. We'll remember the 7 Super Bowls. But, hey, the story of Week 14 was Baker Mayfield. Come on. It's a record, they say. 2 days in town, signing with a team and leading them to a victory, man. A fluke or sign of more things to come?
Well, I mean, I've always thought he had some talent and some skill. And sometimes quarterbacks get in a bad situation, and whether things are not working well within your teammates in the locker room, you're not meshing with the coaching staff, and all of a sudden you go from the hotshot prospect to everyone wants to get rid of you. And so the way he led the Rams in that victory, and the game-winning throw was a big league throw. I mean, over the shoulder, right in the breadbasket, perfect throw. For a guy there 48 hours basically being forced to make it up as they went, they actually had to admit in the earpiece, his play calls were like, hey, not numbered and names like you usually get. They had to tell him, look for the receiver running a post route, like almost like schoolyard football, and he's able to pull it off. Baker Mayfield is still an NFL caliber quarterback, a capable quarterback, and maybe that with the Rams and with Sean McVay and with the talent there, he can sort of have a rebirth in his career and revitalize himself as a player because, I mean, the Rams are a bit of a crossroad here because maybe Matt Stafford physically and mentally, maybe he's done. We have to worry about his health and his future with that concussion and everything. So, and his injuries. And so I think as far as an addition for Baker Mayfield, how he plays down the stretch, someone's going to look at him that he's still a fairly young athlete and he doesn't have a ton of mileage on him. And there are a lot of teams that say, I could do a lot worse at quarterback than Baker Mayfield. So this could be big for him for the last month of the season.
Isn't it amazing, Jim, how every week there's just some tantalizing matchups. It feels like everyone is this week. And I'm sitting here in Miami. The Dolphins are at the Bills. I'm actually tired of the hype. It's Thursday. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the talk here? All day, every media outlet. Dolphins at the Bills. The Dolphins have lost 2 in a row. They think this is their season Saturday night. And the stat is that Tua has never won a game that's below 0 Celsius. So they're kind of going up there thinking they've lost.
Now, Tua was trying to tell reporters that way. It is. Well, I mean, it's funny. I just want to say Tua was trying to tell reporters, hey, I've played in snow before because there is snow in parts of Alabama. But I'm not sure how many people are buying it because we're getting a major storm here in southern Ontario and western New York. And winter in the Buffalo area in western New York is unlike anything he's probably ever experienced before in an outdoor stadium. Now, the only saving grace for Tua and the Dolphins is most of the storm will be done by Friday. So by Saturday night, it'll just be cold. It's just going to be a cold weather game. You won't have to deal with the elements like sleet and rain and freezing rain and snow. So the ball should be dry. It's just as long as he's got proper cold weather gear, that shouldn't be an excuse. And what helps too is the fact that Von Miller's done for the year for the Bills. And that's one less thing for Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins offense to worry about, is not worrying about Von Miller, but it's still a really good Bills team. Home field is a big thing in Buffalo and Western New York. The fans are crazy. They know what's on the line in Buffalo, the potential to have the number 1 seed in the AFC. So it's an important game for both teams because I don't think the Bills want to have to go to Kansas City potentially for the AFC Championship game. They want the road to the Super Bowl to go through Buffalo in January.
Do you think the Bills are looking at this as much as the Dolphins are? Bills are favored by 7, by the way, at Bet Regal, and they were made to look like a high school team here in September. I was at the game. The Bills were. That was where all of Tua's concussion problems started, if he has any. Do you think that's in the back of their mind, Buffalo, taking the field for this one?
I think what the back of their mind is they just want to win out, Rod. I think they're so focused on winning out and getting that home field, unlocking up home field advantage in the AFC playoffs. I'm not sure if the hype is affecting them as much as Tua and Miami, because I get it. Look, Miami had so many good things going on right now. Can they win in Buffalo? I mean, that's a big hurdle. That's been a hurdle for a lot of Miami teams for years, winning in cold weather late in the season in Buffalo against the Bills. So if Tua and the Dolphins can pull it off, that's a huge win. Not just in the standings, but a moral victory and a mental victory for the Dolphins, and really kind of lifts a lot of weight off their shoulders going into potentially the postseason. But the Bills I'm not sure they're going to show anyone any mercy. And I don't think I mean, the way their coaching staff is, the way they're built, the way Jared Allen's playing, is Josh Allen, all they really care about is the next game and scoring as many points as possible, winning the game and locking up that home field. I mean, this is a great Bills team. This is finally one of those Bills teams you realize, and people try not to get too excited. Like, hey, they could do this. They could go all the way because of the quarterback, because of the coaching staff, because of the depth. They could do it. And why not have fate in your hand, beat everyone in your path from here to the end of the season, and make sure the Super Bowl goes through Buffalo? Because if you think it's bad now, in mid to late January, in that outdoor stadium with no roof and it's an old stadium too. It was built in the early 70s. It's a bit of a dungeon compared to modern NFL stadiums. It would not be a fun place to play for anyone going into Buffalo in mid-late January.
We got about 4 to 5 minutes left. I'm going to try and fire as many at you as I can. For the benefit of our Atlanta listeners, how about the Falcons? They're at the Saints. There's another classic, a big divisional game there. How do you feel about Marcus Mariota, if what I read's correct, basically walking off the field when told that he wasn't starting last week?
That's not professional. I mean, that's not how a professional athlete behaves himself. Unfortunately, in the NFL and other pro sports, sometimes the coaches make decisions. You may not agree with it, but to do that, what kind of signal does that send to the rest of the Atlanta Falcons? What kind of signal does it send to the coaching staff? I mean, everything doesn't go your way always in life. Sometimes you don't always start. Sometimes you always don't get the promotion. Do you just turn and walk away? I don't like stories like that. I don't hear like that. It's okay for him to be upset. I expect him to be upset about that, but handle it like a professional, because if you handle it the right way, that gets noticed in the locker room and the coaching staff. If you handle it like the other way, that gets noticed as well. So it's up to you. How do you want to be noticed, and how do you want to be viewed by your teammates, by your coaches, and around the NFL, around the league? It's a small league. So stories like that go around to all the executive offices around the National Football League, Rod.
Arizona Cardinals, their general manager, Steve Keim, was it last night or this morning, announced he's taking a leave of absence. They're 4-9. First thing I thought of was stress. What do we know about Steve Keim stepping back?
I don't know the exact details of his physical ailment, but I can't even imagine how stressed he is. And maybe stress is a factor, Rod. But, Kyler Murray, 3 plays, a non-contact injury, wrecks his knee. They spent all that money on the coaching staff and the quarterback, and it's been one disaster after another for the Cardinals. This has been such a bad season in so many ways. And now, like, as soon as he gets healthy, fair or not, he's going to have to sit down with his front office, his scouts, his player personnel people, his coaching staff, and go, what do we do in the offseason? Because they're going to have to figure out who stays, who goes, free agents, drafts. There's a lot of hard decisions to be made in Arizona. I mean, especially because of the division, especially because of the way I think the Seahawks have been, and Geno Smith have been surprisingly good, but the way the 49ers have been playing this year have been phenomenal. And that's the measuring stick for his division. In the NFC West, if you're in Arizona, can you compete with San Francisco for the division? And I feel bad for Keim, and I feel bad for any time you hear a story that they had to step away for health reasons, because your health, as you know, Rod, has to be your number one concern. But yeah, this is where you realize the stress that the coaches and GMs put themselves under, and they internalize a lot of that. And sometimes it gets them physically. And I'm not surprised. I'm actually surprised it doesn't happen more often, because a lot of these GMs and executives and a lot of these coaches, people don't realize in all sports, they're sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. They're not eating well, and the stress is constant. There's almost no time in the week that they're not stressing about the game that just happened, the game that's coming up next week, the season, the off season. It's 24/7.
Seen it. You didn't even need to explain it. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more. And in a minute or less, John in Edmonton wants to know why you think more young Canadians watch the NFL over the CFL.
Well, I think it's the TV presentation and the choices. You have the ability through streaming, through all the networks, through the star power. The NFL has done a fantastic job of making players stars. Patrick Mahomes is a household name. My wife knows who Patrick Mahomes is and doesn't really watch football. That's one of the differences, and that's something that all sports league, and it's not the CFL, but the NHL really needs to do a better job, no matter what the NHL does going forward. They've got to find a way to do what the NBA and the NFL does, because they're both great leagues at turning their star players into household names that people recognize who don't even really watch their team or watch the sport. And then you build up to the Super Bowl, and now we have a Super Bowl coming up in the Valley of the Sun. Rihanna's playing halftime. There's going to be all the commercials, and it becomes an event. And that's a big part of it. Is now you have Thursday night football. That's an event. The late game Sunday night, that's an event. The Monday night game. So they have 3 event games every week now in the National Football League, and all the drama that goes around it. And then you have, well, now it's a 12-month-a-year news cycle with the league as well, and that's a big part of it too.
Absolutely. Jim, we got a lot out of you. I appreciate you, man. Merry Christmas. Thanks for this. All the best. Let's do it again in the new year.
Whoa. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, my man, Rod. Rod, you're the best. Have a great birthday.
Beautiful.
Thank you. You'll catch up to me one of these days. All right. Thanks.
Yes, I will. Yeah.
The great Jim Lang. We'll be right back. I want to take a swing at that question from John in Edmonton, too. Sports update, viewer takeover. And the Moose will rejoin us, too. If he's ready to come in, we'll bring him now. It's the RP Show. We'll go over the poll results, Game Plus, YouTube Live, and WQEE 99.1 FM.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might fracture your wrist, resulting in a lifetime of painful arthritis. Take safer steps with WorksafeSask.ca. You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or You might injure your back in a way that causes nerve damage or partial loss of mobility. Take safer steps with WorkSafeSask.ca.
I gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
And that's a wrap on summer, everyone. Things are about to get back to busy. Work, school, errands, they're all coming back. That's why we make buying easy at Capital GMC. Reserve your brand new truck or SUV today. Check out our great selection of in-stock GM certified pre-owned trucks. And make some cold hard cash by selling us your used vehicle. We pay big and you can skip the hassle of selling privately. Plus, our service department is always here to help with any make or model. Capital GMC, making back to busy easy.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Experts in all residential and commercial plumbing services and proudly serving Regina and area since 1978. Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. We'll treat you right.
Easy snacking all around. Something everyone can love.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
We've had some great stuff today, and before we bring the Moose back in, we've done, a lot of interviews today. Awesome job by Clark for lining up our good friends. We've covered a lot of ground. For the rest of the way, we'll bring in the viewers with their comments because they've had many, and they've been very patient waiting to get their comments out. But a sports update, Capital star Alex Ovechkin looks to tie or surpass the legendary Gordie Howe for second on the NHL career goals list when Washington hosts Dallas tonight. Ovi enters the game with 800 career goals, one behind Howe. Mitch Marner and the surging Maple Leafs head to Madison Square Garden for an original six matchup with the New York Rangers tonight. Leafs 12-0-3 over the last 15. And from the majors, the Toronto Blue Jays have agreed to terms with outfielder Kevin Kiermaier on a one-year, $9 million contract. The addition gives the Blue Jays a needed left-handed bat and some outfield depth after the departure of Teoscar Hernandez via trade. The 32-year-old Kiermaier played 63 games for Tampa last year, hit .228, 7 homers. This sports update for Telemiracle 47 and the online 50/50 raffle. We are into the final hours, everybody. Around 24 hours are left to purchase your tickets. And we're just this far away, this far from hitting our goal. If you haven't got yours yet, please do it now. Telemiracle5050.com. You have to be 19 years of age or over and in the province of Saskatchewan to do it. They've partnered with us to help promote their event. Can you please help them out? If you enjoy what we do here every day. That would be great. Thank you. All right, let's bring the Moose in. Hey, Moose. Wonderful chat there. Allie in Texas writes in and she says, or texts Harkana regarding Steve Keim leaving the Cardinals because of personal leave. Allie says he's the general manager. She says people forget or don't care. Professional athletes are real people. And to be honest, I really think that horse is out of the barn. That boat has left the harbor. I don't think they'll ever know. And or do they care? She might have it right that these are real people. I don't think they care.
No, they don't. I mean, you talked about the fans who showed up just to boo Vince Young at a Riders green and white game. We were talking about that this week. You know, he's not a real person to them. He's the guy who was bad for the Philadelphia Eagles, who didn't play well, didn't win them enough football games. So when we look at it and we see them, we're betting and stuff. They're just commodities. They're not real people when they're on the ice, when they're on the field, when they're on the court. We don't look at them that way, and I don't know that we ever will. When they're off the ice, when they're off the football field, off the basketball court, then I think we can see them as real people in the streets. But for the most part, no, fans don't.
I'll get to these comments in a moment from everybody, and but I got thinking about it this morning when I was at the gym at Orange Theory about Steve Keim. Immediately, I thought, what's his ailment? And I thought, none of my business. And then, when Tom Brady was going through his stuff in training camp, all those murmurs, remember, people said, oh, it's because he's on The Voice. Oh, it's because of this. It's okay. No, he's going to be divorced in a month. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm thinking it's nobody's business. And people go, well, public people. No, it's everybody's business. I'm like, where does it say that in Tom's contract? Where does it say that in Steve Keim's contract? Because you're the general manager of an NFL team, everybody needs to know your business. It's not part of the deal, or it doesn't necessarily have to be. And that's why when I'm done here, I'll spend the rest of my day dealing with recovery with people in sports, dealing with things like this, because people just literally don't understand. And I think the laundry list of things that I've been through in my life, as much as it sucked at times, has given me the experience to help people going through those same things. And that's what I love about that. Craig Campbell writes in, happy birthday, Rod, from your friends at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it. The birthday is tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure what Clark is telling everybody. I am assuming it's Clark. Thank you, Clark, you sneaky little devil. Jennifer from the Four Seasons writes in, and she says, afternoon, peeps. Happy birthday, Roddy. From Nicholas, he says, Rod, it's my birthday. We are both amazing, but still not as talented as Connor Bedard. I need to pump the brakes. I want your take on the question earlier from John in Edmonton. Why if it's true, he says more young people in Canada watch the NFL than the CFL. Jim did his best to answer it with what he thought. How would you answer that?
It's what they know. It's more accessible. It's easier to consume. When I grew up, the NFL wasn't easy to consume. Look, I'm in my mid-30s. The NFL was not easy to consume. I didn't have it available in the newspaper. I didn't have it available in my phone. I didn't have a phone. It wasn't on my television. I didn't have a computer. The NFL was nowhere, but the CFL was. CFL was in the newspaper. CFL was on the radio. CFL was on TV. It was everywhere. It was easy to consume. And I think now it's the opposite. CFL's hard to consume. We don't know all the players. We don't have, we're starting to see, actually, my social media is being populated with CFL cards, trading cards that have popped up from the last year. So that's cool. But that doesn't really exist. There's no CFL trading cards, video game, social media, television contracts, all these things. The NFL is so much more dominant and feels more local and more accessible than ever before. That's why the kids grow up with it. They have more of an attachment to it.
Bingo. Right there. They're everywhere. And Jim mentioned the 12-month cycle of the news. It's not that hard to do. We sit here, and I told you before the show, we will talk CFL every day. Even if it's only for a minute, we'll talk about it every day. But how many others are doing that? Not too many. And that's why I don't really like to talk about it, because people think we're banging on the CFL, and we're not. But it doesn't take it takes some work and some elbow grease to do all these things. And now the NFL is so far down that road with all the money that they're not going to be caught. Not going to be caught. I do hear from Americans that the NHL doesn't market their stars enough, and the NHL needs to do this. I don't know. I'm finding it just fine. They have a 24-hour television network. They have a 24-hour satellite radio network. I follow all their feeds. I'm just fine with my NHL coverage. I'm good. I'm going to a game tonight. But again, it's what I started to say yesterday and cut myself off. I'm like Rider fans when it comes to the NHL. No matter what they do, the roof could fall in figuratively, and they don't care. They'll support it no matter what. And that's me with the NHL. I was really worried when COVID happened that they weren't going to play. Now they found a way to play. It was in a bubble, and I watched it from 11 in the morning till midnight all day in August, and I loved it. The NHL can do no wrong with me. And for a lot of people, the CFL can do no wrong for them, but the pie and the revenues are decreasing, and that's the scary part, and they say we're understaffed and we're this, and then that's all true too. That is all true. But with the schedule coming out yesterday, this is a wonderful example, and I'll put it in my column on the weekend. Schedule comes out. Surprise! Here's our schedule. Nobody really knew what was coming out. I would have liked to have seen a party in CFL markets, schedule release party, schedule release special on TSN or digital channels. It was just surprise. And those are the kinds of things that I would like to see, but I think I'm in the minority. We'll be back with overtime with whatever everybody else wants to talk about. So stick around. We'll open up the text line, 902 line. Get your messages in now for Moose and I. One final segment ahead. It's the RP Show, normally on Game Plus TV. Not today. YouTube Live and WQEE 99.1 FM.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might injure your back in a way that causes nerve damage or partial loss of mobility. Take safer steps with WorkSafeSask.ca.
Lot of sun, smoky in the air, that's a lot of pine. Big time, big time, big time, big time.
You might not be injured if you slip and fall, or you might injure your knee, leading to joint damage or even a permanent disability. Take safer steps with WorkSafeSask.ca.
Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Experts in all residential and commercial plumbing services and proudly serving Regina and area since 1978. Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. We'll treat you right.
People donate blood for moments like this.
But there are lots of reasons why Canada's Lifeline needs donors every day.
Like the fact that someone with leukemia can need up to 8 units of blood a week.
Or that donated blood lasts no longer than 42 days.
Or to help new moms and babies, like Henry.
There's lots of reasons to donate blood. That's why we need donors every day.
The need for blood is constant. Join Toyota and our Toyota dealers in supporting Canada's Lifeline.
And that's a wrap on summer, everyone. Things are about to get back to busy. Work, school, errands, they're all coming back. That's why we make buying easy at Capital Ford Lincoln. We have a great selection of brand new F-150s in stock. Drive it off the lot today. Reserve an incoming unit or pre-order the perfect vehicle for you. And make some cold hard cash by selling us your used vehicle. We pay big and you can skip the hassle of selling privately. Plus, our service department is always here to help with any make or model. Capital Ford Lincoln, making back to busy easy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
You got something to say? You want to add to the show? What are you waiting for? Don't just sit there. Say something. Now, back to the studio with Rod.
Fastest 2 hours in sports is coming to a close right here. This is the overtime for the Four Seasons Sports Palace here, home for the UFC and the National Football League. Quick update, Moose, of the poll question for Capital Ottawa, Universal Collision Center. Whose reverse retro jersey is better, the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Ottawa Senators? 61% of respondents saying it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, that blue and white beauty. I want to say 1930s, 40s vintage. Moose is thinking of the 90s. He said he thinks of Matt Sundin. When he looks at that, I think of Sil Apps, but the Leafs are leading, and I think they'll go on to win. Monty in Saskatoon's watching. He says, great show, Rod and Moose. Thank you, Monty. We did cover it all. NFL, we did talk WHL, NHL, World Juniors, Vancouver Canucks, BC Lions. We've had it all, and that's what we do here. People are coming around realizing it's the Rod Pedersen Show. It's a talk show. It's, pardon the interruption, with a lot of Canadian topics, and I think they're getting it, Darren. I appreciate that. I want to, again, pick your brain on this regarding the NHL and the USA. Randy in Winnipeg says Connor McDavid and Ovi's goal chase should be bigger sports news in the USA. The NHL needs to be better at that. There's not much they can do. I said it earlier. They have their own 24-hour TV channel, their own 24-hour radio channel. You can't make the media talk about you if they'd rather talk about something else. That's what certain other leagues are battling in Canada. How could the NHL control what's talked about with them? They can't.
It's very tough outside of generating hype, right? If you have hype and people are talking about you on social and talking about you on the street and going to your games and doing all that, the media is naturally going to follow. The media looks at what's making waves and what are people focusing on, and they cover that, right? What's of interest to the people? And so if the buildings are always full and there's things happening and people are talking about it, the media is going to say, I wonder what's going on in Philadelphia, that everybody's talking about it. They'll be there to cover it. So it just continues to grow the product, get it in front of people, talk about it. But you're right, they can't control, if people care across the USA about Ovechkin's chase for 800. In Canada, pretty big deal. But in the US, it's growing.
Well, I think folks, get out and get around, have a look around. I had to learn, like growing up in Saskatchewan, I never really left until the mid-90s, until I was well into my 20s. And I remember Rich Preston was the head coach of the Pats, the Regina Pats. You remember, you've heard me talk about Rico. And he had played with the Chicago Blackhawks for 8 years, New Jersey for a few, won a Avco Cup with the Winnipeg Jets. And we would sit on the bus for hours and hours and hours and just talk. That's why we got to be so close. And I said, oh, they must really love the Blackhawks in Chicago. And he's like, the 16,000 you see at Chicago Stadium, packing that place every game, is the 16,000 that care about the Blackhawks. Other than that, you don't see any Blackhawks around Chicago. I'm like, what? They're an original six team. And he's like, wait, you arguing with me? You've never even been there. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Now, you know what I mean? But look at Jordan Eberle, 250,000 Twitter followers. Montreal Canadiens, Leafs, into the millions of Twitter followers. They're a big deal. They are a big deal. But here in South Florida, which is no different. Like they've told me, somebody once said to me, Washington is the They love the NFL more in Washington than any other market in the NFL. I'm like, how could you say that? I've been to most of them. They're all like that. I'm telling you, now I've been here into year 2. The Dolphins, Darren, have been bad forever. Forever. Pretty much for as long as I've been alive. Now they got a chance to win the division, and it is all you hear, all you see. You see the odd Florida Panthers billboard, but, hey, listen, I was going to say what a great day we had yesterday. We went up to West Palm Beach and scouted out the Hilton there for doing the show next week from the Boca Raton Bowl, and I grabbed a paper on my way out of the lobby. I said to Serena, I love newspapers. I'd like to see what's in the newspaper. Nothing on the Florida Panthers. I'm ripping through it in the car on the way home. Nothing on the Florida Panthers. Headline, Mike McDaniel says Dolphins need to play better. Top item, Miami Dolphins. It depends where you are, and I just wonder if the NHL will ever get a foothold in some of these markets. In a way, now, having said all that, did you see the story that the NHL salary cap's going up by $1 million next year? Gary Bettman said they made $500 million more last year than they thought they would. Wouldn't every league love to be able to say that? The NFL's made $10 billion more than they thought they would, but at least the NHL's made more. You look at the other leagues, the CFL has dropped, and people wonder why we talk about it so much, but at one time they had a bigger profile in Canada than the NFL, and it rivaled the NHL. Now it's down with junior hockey and NLL. It just is. Look at the numbers. Look at the ratings. That's a fact. So I don't even know if I have a point. Take it away.
No, but NFL is more of a religion. Hockey, I feel, in the U.S. is like lacrosse is up in Canada, or at least in, our backyard with the Rush. People pack that place. They love going to the games. The atmosphere is great, but it's not a religion. They're not wearing the jersey. I mean, they wear their stuff around town a little bit in that town, but it's not the same, right? You're not sitting there talking about it all week, consuming all the content. It's not a religion. In football and NFL, it's a religion. All week long, you talk about it. You wear your gear. You're always talking about what's coming up on Sunday. That's the difference.
More than anything, you just need to be out in front of people's faces.
Yeah.
That's all. And we do that as best that we can. Obviously, the NFL is a 12-month league. CFL, if it had its way, has said they would like to hide for 6 months or go dormant for 6 months. That's what I was told. Anyways, thank you, Ryan O'Radio. Another great show. Great, the RP show. Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate you so much. All the viewers, too. Sammy Cosentino, Matt Sekeres, Jim Lang, Moose. We'll see you tomorrow, where it will be all football tomorrow. That should be interesting. I see Elaine Poupart from the Dolphins Sports Illustrated writer will be with us. Going to be a big fun. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Who has more fun than us?
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.